Yeah, there are still many there. There are many. I believe that those people said that they are.
When you begin to hide yourself from
the business I'm doing, how to keep business, like customer business, receipts.
Hello and welcome to the program with me, Oyin Adekunle. 2019 was indeed an interesting year for migration globally, with the number of international migrants in the world reaching 272 million. That is 3.5% of the world's population. And now it's the beginning of a new year. Stakeholders and experts have certainly taken lessons from previous developments and are taking strategic steps to ensure safe, orderly, and regular migration. And truthfully, a lot has changed in the past years, and there are just many things to look forward to this new year. Plus, they say everyone is a potential migrant, so this is something that we should all be interested in or paying attention to. And you can be sure that Talking Migration will be bringing you all of these details and events as they happen throughout the year. Once again, thank you for joining us on the program. You're welcome back. My guest on this episode of the program is Tayo ELEGBEDE, the Media Relations Officer of the Migrant Project. Launched in March 2018, the Migrant Project is an awareness-raising campaign focusing on irregular migration in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Tayo, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, and I should say Happy New Year on air.
Yes, thank you very much. So 2019 has been an eventful year, was an eventful year. So just help us unpack your experience. Tell us about it.
I mean, my experience with migration was quite robust for 2019. And looking back in hindsight, it's really a whole lot. You take a look at what happened in America, Central America, North America, South America. A lot happened within migration. You take a look at Africa. Africa has always been at the centerpiece of migration, epicenter of migration globally. And of course, Europe also comes through with that, with the trajectory of migrations happening around. So we saw a little bit around irregular migration cases. A lot of Nigerians were trying to get into Europe. A lot of Nigerians were also trying to get into some parts of America. Canada was also a big thing for Nigerians in 2019. So by and large, we saw some kind of interest with both regular migration as well as irregular migration. And this of course, goes without saying that a lot of people were burnt in their quest to migrate out of their own space. So a lot of people who wanted to go to, for instance, US, UK, Canada, fell into the hands of fake agents, as they call them. And it's just so impressive to know that most of these processes could be done individually if you have the right information. But some people actually fell into the hands of the wrong people. So if you look at the numbers for regular migration, over 1,200 people died in the Mediterranean Sea while trying to reach Europe via Central as well as Western Mediterranean Sea. Of course, we're not looking at the Eastern Mediterranean deaths, which is, of course, a new scope as we speak about irregular migration. You also look at the 5 countries within North Africa where a lot of Africans are getting into just so they could process or get on with their journeys to Europe via Africa. So it was really a year that came with the good, the bad, the ugly, and of course the beautiful for a lot of people. Some persons online have actually come out to say, oh, I got my visa, or some persons also came out to say, I got my PR, that's permanent residence, in a couple of countries and what have you. So it was a year of mixed reaction. We also saw government policies being tightening across countries. Of course, there were also some insight into what would happen in 2020, and I'm quite sure that in the course of this discussion we'll be able to outline some of these realities.
We'll get to that, but then I liked that there were some areas you also touched on while answering the question, and I would also want to ask you about the lorry deaths that we saw last year. It was something that shocked a lot of people, migrants
Absolutely.
that were found at the back of lorries, and this incident just showed us that there are many undocumented migrant channels. So it's not just Mediterranean Sea, and
Absolutely.
there's a lot of focus on Mediterranean Sea.
Absolutely.
So do you think that countries that have strict travel laws, do you think that this would also be a factor? And maybe, just maybe, if these laws are relaxed a bit, we will not have so much of this crisis.
So it's pretty much interesting that we understand the dynamics of migration. and what are the things pushing migration and the narratives that also come out of migration developments. So, for instance, most often they say he who pays the money dictates the path that you go, basically. There is that on one side. But I think that there's been an overt focus on some routes against some other routes. And that's pretty much understanding. For instance, just to bring this home, in Nigeria, we have a lot of internal migration happening.
Absolutely.
But we most times just focus on what is happening on the international scene. Like you said in the opening prologue, that was about 3.5% of the world's population that experienced international migration in 2019. So what happens to the remaining 96.5 people? Where are they moving? What are they doing? We're not looking at that. But be that as it may, it shows that there are a lot of people who are going through dangers while in their quest to migrate, and the world is not talking about them. The world is not even seeing them because some of those areas are not quite of interest to governments and to agencies. It also shows that we need to review the laws and the policies around migration. So there is the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. And a lot of countries, including Nigeria, have not actually started implementing some of the details of this work. And this is over a decade work put into migration compacts, global compacts. So yes, we need to begin to review laws, policies around migration. But of course, this is another question. Would country A or would the global body, or let's say the International Organization for Migration, the UN as a whole, will they dictate to countries on what should be the migration stance or policy? So these are a lot of dynamics we need to look at. Who is funding the migration issues, the policies, and of course the protection of borders across countries? Should it be a joint effort by country A and country B? Should it be a global effort or some kind of regional efforts? These are a lot of dynamics that policymakers, think tanks would certainly have to go back to the drawing board to look at, essentially.
All right, you have people on the field, like almost every day, and you get reports.
Absolutely.
You hear what people are saying. What would you say? People still travel.
Yeah.
Irregularly.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the problem for us in Nigeria? Is our government ready? That would be my direct question. Is the government ready, or are they showing readiness to stop this?
Well, so I'll just give you an experience I had with one of the returnees just yesterday. And he said to me, two of them, one had returned from Libya and another from Sweden, deported basically. And they said to me, Tayo, this country is not good. I'm just looking for money to go back again, despite the horrifying experiences they shared while on that journey. But here's the point. You asked the question about the government. I think that the dynamics of migration goes beyond, it doesn't stand in isolation. These things actually pull together. It starts from the individual to the family circle, of course, to the community, and of course, the government has a role to play. So we cannot just hold the government to one angle and then say, oh, yeah, is the government ready? Yes, we've seen that a lot of the policies, a lot of the issues around here are not really supportive of easy migration. So let's take, for instance, why are these people looking forward to returning? Those who have even experienced the horrifying case of irregular migration. First, they come back and they say, job no day here. I just permitted to say, I mean, jobs no day here. Nigeria no better. So I really have to get out of this country. So a young man said to me that he works and at the end of the month, he gets 10,000 naira as his salary. And I asked him, so what would anyone do to you for you to stay back in Nigeria? He said, oh God, just make I see work, then they pay me 50,000 naira every month. And I think that that's not too much to ask for someone who really wants to work. But the question is, do we have the enabling environment to get such jobs that could be done for a young man who is about less than 30 years of age? So yes, the government has a role to play. Give us the enabling environment. Let the private sector thrive. Let there be jobs for people to run. Let there be skills acquisition centers. But of course, the personal man, the personal mind, so to say, also has a critical role to play in this, because a lot of our people just believe that they can never succeed in this country. So even if you're giving them 1 million naira per month, they still believe they have to get outside of the country. So our orientation pretty much needs to change. The laws and the economic environment needs to be improved. The opportunities around us also need to be enhanced. And of course, a lot of other things, policy-wise, incentives to young people, to businesses. This would also help in stemming the tide of irregular migration to some extent.
And I'd just also like to get your opinion about the recent move, the visa on arrival thing that the federal government has just started. What do you make of it?
I mean, so I do think that this is going in line with global happenings. If you see, a couple of our African brothers, countries around here are already doing this visa on arrival, short stay for 90 days, and then you can do business. Well, while some people may say that it's not really too good for our security cases, and I would say that this is not promoting irregular migration in any way. It's not like you come into the country and then you just walk through the airport and say, oh, it's visa on arrival. No, you would still get documented, and then the purpose of your stay would also have to be validated. And it also means that for someone who is coming on board, he or she would have a lot of things to do here in this country, and that would also help stimulate the economy. You'd recall that Nigeria had been in a bad ranking on the ease of doing business. And of course, we've seen a lot of government efforts as well as private sector efforts to be able to bridge that gap. And it does seem to be yielding some efforts. And I do think that this visa on arrival is one of the ways to actually go in this age and time where people could just have a call next morning to say, oh yeah, the investor meeting is happening in Nigeria. So they don't have to worry to go to the embassy. And let me say to you, and this is as an experience I've had with some of my friends in Europe. At some point, they wanted to come to Nigeria and they'd applied for visa. And they said to me, Tayo, it's so hard to get a Nigerian visa. And I was like, wait, Nigeria, my country, like I can get it. But I also do think that this is one way to be able to bolster the economy and also bolster Nigeria's image globally. And we just hope that this will be well implemented, and Nigeria will get better on the global scene of doing business as well as the relations internationally.
So my next question to you would be just a personal sentiment. I may be wrong.
Okay.
But I do believe that we pay a lot of attention to irregular migration, irregular means, don't go by Libya, and we do not kind of put it on the same scale that we tell people about regular migration.
So speaking about the alternatives to
yes,
regular
alternatives.
migration. Well, I really think that for the kind of work that we do on the field, we spend a lot of the times even showing people the alternatives as to, and the alternatives essentially may not just be traveling as well. I mean, a lot of people don't even know why they want to travel. A lot of people are just sentimental about, oh, I just want to come on Nigeria. I mean, I just need to leave Nigeria. So we need to understand what is the motivation behind this traveling quest. And once we understand that, we can tell you that, oh, why don't you look at this other path? That could make a lot of sense for you instead of you traveling abroad. And only let me say to you, even regular migration is not cheap. People who are working day in, day out, I mean, they really need to save a lot of money to go for summer break, or I mean, save for 5 years before they go. And here is the point. If you look at the trends from 2019 and what we are expecting for 2020, a lot of the embassies would increase their visa fee. A lot of the tickets would also increase. The ticket fees would also increase. So that tells you that what exactly are you going there for? If you really do not have any benefits or any really tangible reason for going, why would you have to go? But back home here, you could have a lot of things doing. I also say to people, if you get to the airports, international airports in Nigeria, you'd realize that we have a lot of expatriates coming into this country, a lot of foreigners coming. The question is, what are they coming to do here? They see the opportunities and they're coming in here to actually get it on. You would realize someone who has 2-3 shops and has apprentices all over still attempting to go. I mean, and the question is, you just want to break up your business and go leave the known. My father would say, you leave the known for the unknown. And it's just rather sounds so disturbing, so to say. So for us as a project, what we do is we don't just say, oh yeah, and we don't even help you make the migration decisions. What we do is give you the information. We believe that every adult should have some ability to process information and make the decisions that will suit them. Give you the information and then allow you make informed decisions about your migration paths. And then we could also point you to alternatives. Oh, have you tried this? What is your business doing right now? Do you think that you need funds? XYZ organization could help you get funds, and that's pretty much how we work. So yes, I think that if everyone could copy that model to also point people to alternatives to regular migration, home-based opportunities, as well as international information, I think that that will certainly help.
All right, thank you very much, Tayo. But let's take a break here. So we'll go on a short break now, and when we return, we'll continue this discussion with my guests. Please stay tuned.
On DG360, we don't just ask the questions.
What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it?
We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgments so that you can make the right decision and take action.
People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country. I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly. God forbid that I go to join that
DG360, providing clarity to issues.
All right, welcome back. And you're just joining. This is Talking Migration on TV360 Nigeria. And I still have my guest with me, Tayo ELEGBEDE, the Media Relations Officer of the Migrant Project. Thank you very much, Tayo. And now I'm just going to ask you, the recent 2 women that were brought back from Lebanon, and they said they had gone there, their agent had promised them a teaching job, and then they got there to find out that they were to work as house helps. And I'm going to link that to the recent wave of immigration to Canada. You walk on the streets and you find, like, almost at every bus stop, you find these posters. Migration to Canada, they put agents, their numbers there, people call. And they were not paying attention to this thing. Yeah. I think it's an emerging trend. True. And that criminals are exploiting these channels. True. Is it not something that we should be looking at?
Well, that's something we should be looking at. The truth is, every development has 2 angles to it. Yes, certainly there are the genuine agents out there who are helping people, and for those who can afford their services, I mean, they can go ahead. But yes, there are fake agents out there who are just out there to swindle people, to traffic people, and then to just make a mess out of people's life. We've seen a rise in human trafficking cases, and these things actually shock me so well. Look at the Lebanon case. These are young ladies who've got promising future ahead of them. Now they were trafficked with one hope that, now for them, it wasn't a case of trafficking. I mean, at the initial phase, they thought that life was going to get better for them because they were leaving Nigeria. But the person who was taking them had an ulterior motive that, oh no, I just want to use you for something else. So first thing, one of the things we need to do is to discern promises. When people come to you with information, you need to really check out, where is this coming from? What is the motivation? How can I trust this person? What is the track record? You also don't need to be overexcited about information. I mean, someone just comes and promises you X, Y, Z, and you're not asking how. So one question I do not figure that a lot of people ask is, how is this going to happen? And then the least you can even do is find out about where you're going. About where you're going. But you know, this traffickers could also be very cunning in their own way. They just lay out a very good plan for you and say from year to year. I spoke with a lady also earlier this week who said she got a plan. She had a business here in Nigeria, but she got a promise that she would be taken to Morocco and then from Morocco down. And then she ended up in Mali. And she said to me, Tayo, the worst part of Nigeria is better off than the best part of Mali, according to her experience. That's what she said. Now, so these are cases. Now, mind you, these 2 ladies that were returned from Lebanon, I think that they are still so fortunate because a lot of our young people go out there and we don't even hear stories. So a lot of families will think that their loved ones are abroad, surviving and then hoping that one day they will come back or send some money to them, but they never get to hear about them. A lot of people would think that, and these people, you also recall that there are slave markets all over where people are sold in the Middle East and all across the world. These are things that we're saying where your organs can be harvested. So I really would appeal to everyone watching this. Loved ones, if any of your loved ones come around saying, oh, I want to travel, one guy is promising me anything, calm them down. Let's be sure of the information. These people would also take their time to gain your trust just before they could actually strike. And then we should also watch out for trends, as social media would be used for recruiting a lot of these things in the year 2020. Of course, traffickers, smugglers would also expand their operations for the year 2020. I'm not sure if I'm already getting into the forecast for the year 20, the evaluations for the year 2020. Yeah. So these are some of the things we would see a lot of these agents all across. Yes, should we be worried? I'm super worried about that. Almost everywhere you turn to in Lagos now, you will see signposts and all of that saying, oh, do you want to migrate? You just need this amount of money, just come around and then would help you. These things would feel desperation. We're not even asking, so how is it going to be? And it might so surprise you that even educated people fall prey to these things out of a desperate interest to leave this country. But then, this is it. We need valuable information to be able to discern. This information about traveling are also almost everywhere on the internet, and the embassies, those countries would put out the information on their website and say, do it yourself. We don't even advise that agents would come. I can tell you right now that the application fee to some of the countries out there, I mean, it's quite ridiculous. The visa application fee, and some countries are less than 50,000 naira, some countries less than 30,000 naira. But then you would, if you can afford to pay good agents, I'm saying yes, go. But then be very sure that the information you have are reliable and authentic for you to go with.
All right, so lastly, I'm just going to ask you about the Migrant Project, which is your own organization. I understand that you're working in 2 phases. You started in 2018 and that ran till 2019. And you're running on another project now, which will continue until April 2021. Can you just tell us about that?
So the Migrant Project is an information-based campaign. We realized that a lot of the decisions people make on migration are not based off information. So people just go on with assumptions, hearsay, family and friends, but what exactly are the authentic information out there? What can people trust? When we realized that there is a gap in that, we spoke to a lot of people in Libya, in Nigeria, in Mali, and a couple of Niger Republic as well, and we realized that we need to bridge the information gap. So what we're doing right now is to bridge the information gap. And instead of just working with returnees, we realize that prevention is better than cure. So we target more of the potential migrants, and it's been really amazing. A lot of people tell us that if not for the information that you guys have shared with us, I would have been a prey, because I was just about paying an agent or someone came to my mom's shop, and my mom already sold the land. It was just for her to transfer the money. And that's usually the case. So we work predominantly in Lagos, Edo State, which has been the hotbed for irregular migration and human trafficking. We also work in Abuja, Kebbi State, and a couple of other spaces in Nigeria. We have a dominant target audience. As you know, young people are at the fore of irregular migration in Nigeria. And so we're using every means possible, the media. And so we're really thankful for opportunity like this to speak to the public. We also have on-the-ground agents who are speaking, who are doing events, going into spaces, and then they're doing a lot just to sensitize the people, create the awareness, and also have the people make more informed migration decisions as they go through life.
And this is particularly what makes makes the situation that is worrisome easier for us to bear, because for organizations like you on ground, we know that you are able to stem some of this and the impacts of this and the negative impacts of this migration crisis. So thank you very much, Tayo ELEGBEDE,
thank you so much
for agreeing to speak to us. And I hope when we call you again, you agree to
Absolutely. It will be a pleasure to be here again. Thank you for having me today
on the program. And that's it on this episode of the program. One thing we're taking away from what Tayo has told us is, if a loved one comes to you, they want to travel, tell them, calm down, please first. So that's it on this episode of the program. Thank you very much for watching. You can catch other episodes on our YouTube channel at TV360 Nigeria. I'm Onyade Kunle. Bye-bye.